Rainfall on the summer solstice in Greenville, South Carolina for this matchup between the Greenville Triumph and the Chattanooga Red Wolves, brought to you by Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System. Welcome one and all to the game on ESPN+, the first meetup between these two sides this year in 2023. Mark Schoenster alongside me, Ross Davenport. Let's take a peek at the Hopkins iCenter standings. Greenville in 7th place, meanwhile Chattanooga in 11th. That is where they sit currently in the standings.
Yeah, for Greenville, it hasn't been many losses or wins over the last few games, mostly draws. They've been hanging around in that center spot there, but a win tonight would move them into the playoff spots.
Would be tied right up with one Knoxville. And for the Greenville Triumph, the story's been flipped this season. They've been one of the top scoring teams in USL League One, tied for the top in that regard. And it's coming from all over the pitch, Ross.
It is 19 goals. 9 of those goals have come in only 3 games. That's 47.4% of their total for those counting at home, but they've spread the love around, as you see there. Coutinho only had 6 pro goals in 65 matches coming into this season, so that might be the biggest surprise, but John Harks has got 3 goals from his rookies as well.
And they'll be going up against a side under a new head honcho for the season. Just yesterday, Ziggy Koratowski was dismissed, but it is a familiar face taking charge of the reins for the Red Wolves. Jimmy Weekly stepped up in a big way last year, and they saw lots of success.
Yeah, it came a little out of nowhere yesterday, only 12 games for Ziggy in this job. We didn't get to talk to Jimmy Weekly, but this isn't the team he inherited last season after taking up. He's got some work to do to get them back up the table.
Lots of work to be done this season for Jimmy Weekly, and 90 minutes of work to be done coming up on the other side of this break. We've got kickoff, lineups, and all the rest of this League One fun right here on ESPN+. We'll see you then.
The future is in these foothills. The world's fastest internet from EPB is in homes from Hickson to Highland Park. In classrooms from East Lake to East Brainerd. And in reach of those striving to learn more, be more, achieve more. The future is here with fiber optic speeds up to 25 gigs, only from EPB.
At Piedmont Natural Gas, being a part of the communities we serve is important to us, because to us, community begins with you. We strive to address the needs of our communities by investing time and resources to help improve the quality of life for our customers. For over 60 years, we have funded programs that support education, the environment, and community impact. Our Energy Assistance Program, Share the Warmth, helps customers pay their energy bills. We're committed to helping our neighbors by powering the vitality of our communities.
This USL League One broadcast is presented by Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System, proud sponsor of the Greenville Triumph. Just saw some photos from previous matchups between the Triumph and Chattanooga. And they've got their first 2023 game brought to you by Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System. Here, Mark Schoenster alongside me, Ross Davenport. Let's take a look at the starting lineups here between these two sides. First off, John Harks' side, a side that's had to make a lot of changes throughout this season. Only one here today.
Yep, starting to get a little healthier, Mark. Just the one change, as you mentioned. Jacob Labovitz in for Lucas Coutinho, who left the last game over the weekend a little sick. Tevin Shaw remains out. He's really the only potential starter out. Gabo and Smith starting to get healthy as well.
We'll talk a little bit about Evan Lee in that midfield spot as the game goes on. Meanwhile, here are the Chattanooga Red Wolves lineup. Both of these lineups brought to you, by the way, by Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System. Ross, what are you seeing here?
2 changes for interim head coach Jimmy Weekly. Out go Aaron Lombardi and Malongo. In come Pedro Hernandez and Johnny Guadarrama getting his first pro start, the 24-year-old from Utah. Also importantly, no Marios Lomas. He was announced late last week, but not eligible to play tonight.
Mo Espinoza getting the starting nod here. You see those 3 assists, just his 5th start of the season. Been just working back from injury. They'll love to see his impact the rest of this season. One of those few returning players from last year's run. As these 2 sides take to the pitch and look to get things ready to go. We saw in the open bit of rainfall here in Greenville. And the Triumph donning an appropriate blue kit to match that. And we're underway between the Red Wolves and the Triumph. We'll see how this one goes at Paladin Stadium.
Yeah, not a city that Chattanooga's thrived in, Mark. No goals ever in Greenville in the matchups between these 2 sides. 6 previous matchups. This is obviously the first one at Paladin.
We do have 2 teams, though, that have been, to put it appropriately, leaky defensively. We're going to get a free kick here for Chattanooga. So perhaps we'll see some goals here today, but you never know.
I don't predict things like that anymore, Mark.
Yep.
Whenever I think we're going to have a goal fest, it ends up being 0-0 and vice versa. Aaron Walker, one of the guys starting to get healthy, missed some time recently with a hamstring problem.
And one headed forward by Fricky. And Castro brings it down and touches it to McKinnon. And Walker, they love to have him back, Greenville, for moments like that where he can keep composure despite 3 jerseys around him of the opposite color.
You mentioned Evan Lee. Mark, keep an eye on him tonight. He was forced into the number 6 role recently due to injuries, but then John Marks kind of kept him there last game. The win, here he is on the ball now against Fuego out there in California. Obviously a center back by trade, but he did play defensive midfield in college. So you see him drift a little bit further up from his center back spot. He's quite comfortable if he needs to drop back there when Chattanooga has possession. As you can see, Evan Lee sitting there in that 6 role. We'll see if he remains there when Tevin Shaw gets healthy. The likely starter at the 6th spot. We haven't seen a ton of him of late, though. You and I were talking about it this week, Mark, of the glutton of central midfielders that John Harkes has at his disposal. Yeah. If you do go 3 at the back, that allows you to play that extra midfielder. Harkes has tinkered with 3 at the back in the past, as have Chattanooga this season. We'll see exactly how they said. We had to take a bit of a guess tonight with, obviously, Jimmy Weekly taking over. No Lombardi tonight. Guadarrama in there.
Boyce losing track of the ball for just a moment there, so he'll give it back to Mazzola. You mentioned that Fresno game last weekend, a 1-0 victory on the road in California for the Greenville Triumph. John Harkes talked about the game. He said, every match is its own unique challenge. He mentioned how much resilience the team has been building up with all the draws they've had recently, but eventually an anxiety can build up that is a win coming at any point in time. Are you actually going to win a game? So that goal in the 95th minute from Jacob Blavovitz was able to sort of dispel that or keep it from building to any dangerous point. He talked about how disciplined his side was throughout the 90-plus minutes and that they got off to a better start in that game than they had in previous matches, which has been something they'd been working on.
You have a long trip back and a short turnaround. See how Greenville come out here in the first 10 minutes or so. As you mentioned, the pace has been a problem. Moving that ball quickly. Takes them a while to settle in. John Harkes wants them to come out with a little more energy. Seem to be pretty well energized tonight, all things considered, with the long trip out there. As we mentioned, as Aaron Walker gets clipped.
Oh, talking about how teams start off, you also have to keep an eye on this Chattanooga side. Of course, we briefly mentioned it in the open. Just a little over 24 hours ago, Ross, it was announced that they were parting ways with Ziggy Kortoski, the man who they hired this year to be the head coach for this Red Wolf side. And We talked a little bit with Sean McDaniel, the general manager for the Red Wolves, yesterday. And when we were talking to him about it, he said, I mean, look, our intention was to keep him for a long time, but it didn't work out.
Listen, the timing was odd, right? But we don't know when the decision was actually made, right? He may have been fired. He may have been fired after the last game, and they just didn't tell anybody and kept it maybe for tactical reasons until yesterday. You hope that's the plan, right?
Yeah.
To make a change right before a game when you've had a week since your last game. There is the back of Jimmy Weakley's head. Obviously, what a great campaign last season for the Red Wolves, but this is, as I mentioned in the pregame, this is a vastly different team than he took to the championship game last year. Only 3 outfield returners from that loss to Tormentor in the championship game.
Lefty.
Mass exodus. Obviously, plenty going to bet some, higher level teams, and some taking money to go elsewhere.
This one floats up looking for Mensah, and he gets fouled by Fricky.
It's going to be a slick surface tonight, Mark. You can see both teams struggling a little bit early here to maintain control of the ball. We may see some rain at some point coming up from the south.
Guadarrama with a touch, and it falls to Marsh. Siobhan Marsh plays it across the center, and it's poked away by Polak. But Marsh is back on the ball once again. Here's Espinoza. Couple of good moments here for Chattanooga. Espinoza. Don't think he got the contact on that ball that he was looking for, and this one cleared away by Fricky. Select the official match ball supplier of the USL League One and many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit www.us.select-sport.com for the latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. Mensah gets teamed up on there, and Polak walks away with it. Culture shift was needed in the organization this season. That's what Sean McDaniel was telling us. And the main push for that is, he mentioned just how high a standard the organization holds for the club's success. I mean, they anticipate making the playoffs year in and year out. And although you mentioned that it's not the same side as last year, there's still a ton of talented and athletically gifted players on this Chattanooga side.
Yeah, one thing we could say about Zicky is that he did a lot of tinkering in those first dozen games. And obviously the results weren't consistent, neither was the lineup. Moving guys around all over the place. He obviously had some injury problems as well. And we've obviously got no Cardona, no Jerez tonight for Gold Cup duties. So Jimmy having to tinker a bit himself this evening. I'm surprised no Lombardi though. It's a big, he's only failed to start 1 game so far this season. Now this is 2. Chattanooga, as you mentioned, Mark, does have some talent, especially in those front 5 or 6. Got some speed and quickness that can cause Greenville trouble if they're allowed to get the ball in deep.
Pilato, that one deflects off of Johnny Guadarrama, and it'll be our first PNC's Corners for Kids of this matchup. So we'll see who actually makes their way over to take it. Devin Boyce, not usually the one to swing in the ball, so, and there you go.
Alan Gavalanes, the normal left-footed corner kick taker when he's on the pitch, on the bench tonight, so Tyler Pollock will take this one.
Donning that captain's armband, and we'll look to float in a good ball.
Corner flag, wind's gusting a little bit. Nothing too much to worry about at the moment, though.
Low driver, the volley straight on goal! It's a fantastic finish! What a hit from Liam McKinnon! Just a doozy of a strike.
Greenville's been getting creative with these set pieces of late. What a strike by the rookie, Liam McKinnon. I don't think Carlos Avalos knew much about it. Tons of traffic in front of him. He was going to see it, he was going to see it late, and it was too late.
I mean, this one connected from one boot to the other.
That's not an easy goal at any level, Mark. The ball coming across. What a strike with his right foot. Perfect posture, perfect contact.
I mean, he took some notes from Benjamin Pavard. I mean, that's the only time I've seen something along those lines. I mean, that's excellent.
That's certainly a front runner for goal of the week. Beat that one, boys. Everybody else out there, it's going to be tough to beat.
His second goal of the season brought to you by YMCA Greenville. And what a strike it is.
Yeah, McKinnon had that one big game earlier this season. Had gone quiet a little bit, but he's been trusted enough. Hark's giving him the starts here and rewarding him with that strike. The technique was just outstanding from the man out of Villanova.
I mean, how about that for your second ever professional goal?
I'll take it. So will he. As will the Greenville fans out there in the rain, the drizzle at the moment. We'll see if it gets heavier later. You and I mentioned, Mark, an early goal was going to be critical in this one for Greenville. It's obviously been an interesting week for Chattanooga. Should be nicely rested, though, coming off that week's break. The last game was last midweek.
Yeah, there's a strange stretch in the schedule where they've had 3 straight Wednesday matches, and that finally ends this week, where they will then have a quick turnaround and host Charlotte on Saturday, which is, of course, never the team you want to see at any point in time, but you got to play them at some point.
This is their 4th road game in the last 5 as well. They had a good chunk of home games to start the season. And that's probably part of why the points total after 12 games was not considered good enough, because of that home stretch they had early. You'd expect them to pick up more points than they have.
Espinoza tries the volley, and it deflects off of Schultz. A stroke of misfortune for Greenville is a stroke of luck for Chattanooga. And we are all level at 1 apiece under 12 minutes in.
Well, those that watch USL League One midweek madness games, you never know what to expect with these Wednesday games, and we're off to a fun start here. Nate Schultz, you can see, kind of lost track of Espinoza. By the time he got back over there, it's a good enough strike. It may have been going in the far corner. Mazzola probably had it covered, but it was unlucky for Nate Schultz.
Yeah, that's
ended up in the back of his own net.
Sometimes you just got to put shots towards goal, and they're going to get one to deflect in your direction at some point in time.
Espinoza, one of the returners from last year. That's poor from Mazzola.
So as we mentioned earlier, that's the first time Chattanooga has ever scored on the road against Greenville, and I mean, you gotta get your first somehow, I suppose.
It'll be interesting to see if they give it as an own goal, or if they've given it to Nate Schultz at the moment as an own goal. Might have been on target though, so
that's going to be the question.
A little harsh. Perhaps they'll take another look at it later and change it. Espinoza won't care.
Yeah, if it hits the back of the net, it hits the back of the net.
Greenville's 11th first half goal they've conceded this season, at second to only Central Valley Fuego, who've conceded 12. John Harkes prides himself on his defense, and he's mentioned to us the last couple of chats we've had that he wants to get back to the clean sheets, and he's not going to get one tonight.
Also worth noting, on the topic of Chattanooga and this being their first goal scored on the road against Greenville, on the flip side, every game Chattanooga has scored a goal in this season, they have scored several goals. So if the empirical pattern continues, then Chattanooga fans should be excited for the next 80 or so minutes.
So this one's finishing 1-1 then, Mark. You just
yeah, of course, as it always goes. You never know with the midweek mayhem, though.
Yeah, you can see the breeze really picking up now. Nate Schultz's jersey and shorts blowing in the wind. Something both goalkeepers are going to have to keep an eye on.
Talking about the weather, 64 degrees at the moment, which I'm sure outside of the slick surface, the players will appreciate it. That's not the typical 90+ that we're seeing consistently across the board in the league. And it appears we're going to get Our first quarter kick for the Red Wolves tonight.
It's also the fourth goal that Greenville have conceded in the first 15 minutes of the game. That's the most in League One.
And we were just talking about how Greenville has at times struggled in the opening 15 minutes, and Espinoza swings in the cross, and that one bounces on the turf without making any contact with anybody, and then skied out for a goal kick. Well, after winning on the road against Central Valley, John Hark said it was an amazing feeling to win that game on several fronts, but he doesn't want the team to be complacent because it was by no means a perfect game. But he did mention that it was the first time they were able to have players come off the bench who were of starting caliber throughout this season. And the three substitutes came on, Alan Gavilanez, Jacob Labovitz, and Alex Cox-Ashwood, who all combined for that game-winning goal in that game. And he said it just makes such a difference to have that depth, which is something he'd been banging that drum this season, that we just don't have depth, and that makes things so much harder.
Yeah, they had a bit of a congested early schedule too that made things a little more difficult. I'm trying to think, it's almost hard to think of somebody that hasn't missed time on this Greenville team.
Noah Pilato, which is kind of interesting to think about. Him and Mazzola, I think, are the two off the top of my head that have pretty much been around for all of them. And then Tyler Pollock's another one. I guess Pilato did miss 2 games, now that I'm looking at my stat sheet.
Yeah, McKinnon, I think, has been relatively healthy, as Labovitz just hasn't been getting the starts that he was last year. Getting opportunity tonight, though.
Laborio. That's back to Aviles, and just got that off in time with Labovitz bearing down on him. Left feet, boots that one up. Now here's Boyce with a run. Devin Boyce into the 18. A Boyce cross center. McKinnon! He's got 2 of them. And Greenville recapture the advantage.
It's the Devin Boyce we're used to seeing in USL League One turn on the Jets. A good cutback for McKinnon with his second goal. You and I saw this Chattanooga backline, Mark. We thought they might have some trouble at times containing Greenville this evening. It's proved to be the case so far. Lovely little touch from Labovitz. See, McKinnon just held his run up, drifted away from the defender, and it was a perfect ball in by Boyce. Another composed finish by the rookie.
Well, that's goal number 3 on the season for Liam McKinnon. The fans who made their way out to see this one despite the soggy weather being rewarded with some excitement in the first 20 minutes. Goal number 3 of his career for Liam McKinnon. And that goal presented to you by YMCA Greenville. Talk about an opening to this match. It's Devin Boyce's 2nd assist in Greenville colors. Like you mentioned, it was wise from McKinnon to hold on his run, especially with Castro already making the deeper run in front of him.
We've seen Castro and McKinnon combine at times this season. John Harksley was waiting for the Labovitz-Castro connection to happen, but he won't care either way as long as somebody's putting him in the back of the net.
Here's a shot that goes just off target. Speaking of Castro, Castro appears, and it suffered a deflection, so it's going to be a corner. We saw what happened last corner kick for Greenville. Of course, this is on the left-hand side, so Devin Boyce will line this one up. This corner kick, of course, PNC corner for kids. Swinging this one in is Boyce. It's nodded away, and a whistle will blow the play dead right then and there.
Yeah, I'm surprised Aviles didn't come to try and get a fist on that one. Close to him. It was scary for a second there how close that was to his goal.
This Red Wolves side, once again, the work cut out for them. Down a goal once again. Jimmy Weekly, when he took over last season, started off 3-0-4. Was 8-4-5 last year, including the playoffs as the head man in Chattanooga. I mean, they did so well when he took over that not only did they make the playoffs, but they got to host a playoff game and then pulled off the upset in Richmond against the top-seeded team.
Yeah, I think many of us out there, Mark, were kind of disappointed at the exodus during the offseason because it's fun to have seen that Red Bulls team go at it again this season. A ton of departures. You know, who knows what was going on behind the scenes, contracts, etc. But yeah, I'd love to have seen him have another run at it.
Always that price of success in League One sometimes.
Yeah, your team does, gets picked apart for sure.
Despite that, John Harkes calls this Chattanooga team a technically gifted side, a side that's great on the ball, and they have the weapons to attack you. He mentioned that we have to be careful and match them when we're on the defensive. And this was before the news broke, but he predicted they were going to come in with a ton of energy, and now maybe that energy is channeled in a slightly different way after the news that broke, but this one deflects off of Castro and out. But Sean McDaniel, the GM, also seemed under the impression that these guys were going to come in like it was another game on the schedule because they're true pros, as he called them. He mentioned that they show up to work, they train, and play with a passion and an energy each game. And he thinks that that's something that was unrelated to whoever's in charge of the coaching. He thinks that that's fully on the onus of the players. He mentioned that they're playing for the club. There are a couple exchanges here for Greenville. Lee floats this one up for McKinnon, and he volleys it in! And it's a hat trick for Liam McKinnon! What a showcase from the rookie!
Johnny Guadarrama's going to have nightmares tonight. It's great work from Evan Lee. Perhaps a hint of offside on the initial pass, but no flag. He just composed himself, especially for a central defender. Found McKinnon, who Guadarrama had lost track of again. And it's 3-1 Greenville.
Another volley for McKinnon in this game.
And Guadarrama just realized too late where McKinnon was. Once again, a piece of positioning by the number 9. And certainly one of the quickest hat tricks in League One history, I would have to think.
That's what I'm trying to dig up right now, Ross. It's also our first hat trick this season in League One. Fourth goal of the season by Liam McKinnon, brought to you by YMCA Greenville. And in just 22 minutes, he's now tied for first place in goals scored this year for the Greenville Triumph. And here they come again. Castro for to Labovitz, but Mikhail Williams is ready for it. Bolefi does well when getting chased down by two separate players there.
Yeah, Chattanooga have just got to settle down a bit here, find their composure. Jimmy Weekly obviously going to be bitterly disappointed at the first half of this first half. Mentioned a little short-handed. Greenville taking advantage.
So a hat trick in 23 minutes. There's only one competition as far as fastest hat trick in League One history, and it was Ronaldo Damas against Toronto FC 2 back in 2019. Now the question is just how fast was it? Because I believe it was in around the 30-minute range. I think this one beats it. We're digging into it right now. So once we get that stat up for you, we will confirm that, but off the top of my head, I'm fairly certain that's the fastest hat trick in League One history.
I'll trust your memory much better than mine, Mark.
Service will swing well over and sits on top of the netting. Ronaldo Demis, though, of course, another youngster at the time to pull that off. Lyle McKinnon, just 23 years old from Switzerland, coming out of Villanova. Ross, we did some looking at his track record in college before the game, and he scored against a familiar face. Was it this past season?
2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago.
He scored against Daniel Wu, his now current teammate. Both face each other in the Big East once a year.
Of course, if I bring that up, I'm sure Daniel Wu would then posit the counter, which is that Georgetown then responded with 3 goals of their own and won the game 3-1.
But the edge as well in the matchups.
Well, pretty tough to compete with Georgetown in the Big East as far as soccer is concerned, both on the men's and women's side. We knocked out 4th row. Hernandez, and knocked over Polak, who will earn a free kick for his side. Don't miss a minute of the action in 2023, whether your club is on the road or at home. Catch nearly every second of USL League One action on ESPN+, the home to the USL, La Liga, the Bundesliga, UFC, and more. Sign up today at plus.espn.com. Well, those of you who have ESPN Plus and are tuning into this game at this very moment, I mean, you're getting your money's worth. 4 goals in 25 minutes. A hat trick on top of it, the first one this season in USL League One. Puts Lyle McKinnon squarely in the front running for Player of the Week. Kale Williams floats this one up the pitch to Rapapa Mensah. Chattanooga looking for a response here. I think if you can find a goal before halftime, then you're feeling pretty good if you're Chattanooga, only down a goal going into the second 45 minutes. The service bounces in. Shot from Mensah! And they're going to say that grazed off of Mazzola.
When Chattanooga got the ball into the Greenville box, there's been space.
So they're going to say the corner is taken on the left flag. Some confusion there from Mo Espinoza.
You had the midweek chaos games of all midweek chaos games.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get to that tonight, but stranger things have happened.
Oh, certainly. Espinoza floats this one across. Still kept in play. Actually, the assistant official had other thoughts in mind. There it is, and Ross, as you see it there, it's the fastest hat trick in league history by 4 minutes. I just found the game that Ronaldo Damas pulled off his feet in. It was 26 minutes. So Lyle McKinnon putting on a historic showcase in USL League One this Wednesday, as a lot of Wednesday fixtures in League One, as you previously mentioned, tend to do sometimes.
Just saw a bit of frustration there by Mo Espinoza, slamming the ball on the ground for Guadarrama. Man making his first pro start. Certainly getting early exposure to the pro game. McKinnon on this right wing causing all sorts of problems.
He's been, I mean, it's been crazy to see how quickly McKinnon has shown his potency in the pro game.
So John Harkes has a history of finding these collegiate goal scorers. Lachlan McLean, then Labovitz last year, and now McKinnon. Seen Omaha have success with it as well. Ouch.
Aaron Walker taking that one from point blank range. Only a 2-goal deficit, and you still got 2/3 of the game to go. And whether it was more talked about this season, but I'm sure the sentiment would also be held in this game in particular. Sean McDaniel said that he's confident that this team of players can turn it around. Certainly a ton of game time left in this one. Not the start they were looking for, though, of course.
McKinnon, the third Triumph player with a hat-trick. Marius Lomas, we may see soon in action for the Red Wolves. Not tonight, obviously, but hopefully in the next few games. He had a hat-trick as well as the aforementioned
Jacob Labovitz, no?
Labovitz last year. I think I mentioned him earlier. We're underway in Omaha. Union Omaha and one Knoxville taking on each other. That should be a fun one too.
Didn't Chris Bermudez also get a hat trick?
Don't remember that.
Maybe it was just 2 goals.
Carlos Gomez. There you go, there's another one for
Carlos Gomez, that was who I was thinking of. Different Greenville player.
Greenville have had a few hat tricks over the years.
Here's Schultz. Dishes it out to McKinnon, who has been the man of this match so far. That one. A bemoaning Devin Boyce as his touch was just too heavy. Deflects off of Mikhail Williams and out for another PNC Corners for Kids. I don't know if you tune into this game late, you can see the scoreline and go, oh my, a lot's already happened. And started in the 9th minute with a wondrous strike from Ryan McKinnon, and he has then followed that up with 2 more finishes in his favor. Meanwhile, an own goal from Nate Schultz. Had one back for Chattanooga.
The great thing about ESPN Plus, you can go back at halftime and watch the first 15 minutes you missed.
And that one headed down nearly in. At that point, it was almost harder to get that one off target than on target for Brandon Fricke with the way he headed it down. Just too much ricochet.
Yeah, I think Fricke was almost shocked at how unmarked he was. Lovely delivery from Fricke.
They're going to call a foul on Castro there as Guadarrama gets tripped up.
Yeah, well, Knoxville have been playing superbly of late. Trying to continue their climb up the table against a Omaha team that's been struggling to find the back of the net.
Hernandez trying to wheel around Polak. And Polak makes contact on that cross. It'll be a corner kick.
Great recovery from Polak. He was beaten by the initial burst of speed from Hernandez. A well-timed sliding tackle, was so used to those by Polak.
Mo Espinoza. This time it's from the right corner flag. As they look to test Jared Mazzola. Tight swinging ball headed away by Castro. Marsh gets that one knocked out of his feet by Labovitz.
John Harkes wanted to throw in for his team. He thinks it came off the leg of the Red Wolves player.
Not seeing the same perspective as the head official there. course, that happening right in front of the Greenville dugout. Mentioned this Greenville lineup, just one change from the matchup on Saturday, which is a very positive step in the right direction for this Greenville side that has been struggling with availability and injuries all season.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, after this game, they only play one more time between now and July 15th. They've got a 10-day break now, and then they play Madison on the 1st, and then they don't play again until the 15th of July. So one game in almost a 3-week span, actually more than 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. John Hawks said he was a little annoyed by it. Obviously, helps with the health side of things, but doesn't help with the flow of things, especially if when now your team scored 3 goals in the first half an hour. You want to keep that going. We've seen teams like Madison schedule in-season friendlies. Louisville City playing a friendly tonight against Kaiserslautern. Obviously, you've got to have the facilities available to do that.
Right.
We talked to, I remember talking to Doug Irwin previously about trying to get matches scheduled at the Legacy early. Just didn't quite have the facilities and the availability there to schedule it. And he said they had offers. We've seen Richmond play some friendlies against, they got one coming up right against an Ecuadorian side, I know. Obviously, you can schedule some local stuff, right? Keep things fresh. Keep the teams out there. Yeah, but obviously, you got to be careful with the injuries.
Right. I'd say up to this point in the season, that would have been an unwelcome addition to the schedule for Greenville if that had been the case. But as you mentioned, the one positive you can glean from it is the recovery. I mean, several players are running and training again, guys like Jamie Smith. Noah Frankie's on the bench, but I'm sure he'll appreciate some more time to recover. Tevin Shaw, Hassan Cabo. And they've got players who they're waiting to get back as McKinnon tried to serve that one up for Labovitz.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you're right, Mark. If you were all banged up and you had a friendly against an international opposition, a lot of these teams, not as deep rosters this year due to the CBA, you got to be careful.
Good touch there. Espinoza, always so light on the ball, and a yellow card given to Devin Boyce. All too familiar with the bookings this season.
Yeah, that was a little needless from Devin, just clipped him as he went by.
So he'll have to play the rest of this game with that caution. I don't think it's something that's too drilled in his head, though, as far as the way he plays. He's such a passionate player.
He's hard to rein in, right? You don't want to rein him in too much. But
I'd say it's part of his quality, too.
We talked to John Hawks about it before. Actually, before he got that red card a couple of weeks ago. He said he really needs to learn when to use that passion. That was just a little clumsy there from the former Omaha man.
Shot directly on target is, well, off target.
We'll do have obviously some wing options on the bench if John Hawks decides to perhaps rest Boyce and avoid that second yellow at some point here tonight. Venton Evans, Alan Gavilanes, Alex Cox-Ashwood can also play wide.
I'm sure you could even argue Noah Frankie could now. As far as health is concerned, maybe that's not the name you go to, but I don't think it would be out of his wheelhouse either if they really needed it. But
you won't really say it's not really a wing-back system employed here by Hawks. Boyce and McKinnon don't really get back too much to help on defense. You got Evan Lee to fill in, as we've said.
Castro squares it. Boyce has it now. Takes a touch. Tries to play it inside for Labovitz. And it'll go out for a corner kick.
We've seen, speaking of wing-backs, we've seen Stephen Payne thriving. Former wing-back and went back to play full-back for Richmond, and then now back to the wing-back spot for Madison.
Corners for kids taken
Had a great goal over the weekend.
So this PNC corners for kids coming up from Devin Boyce. has the option to play it short if he so desires. He won't take that option. Still in the 18. One back by Castro. Leo Castro trying to beat his man one-on-one. He's unsuccessful. That was Riley Kraft defending. And the clearance is provided. And that's a mid-air collision between Laborio and Schultz. It'll be a free kick for the Triumph.
And Schultz is feeling that one. Laborio just got there a split second too late.
We're here in June, late June for this matchup. Last time these two teams played was all the way back in August of last season. It's a 5-1 victory for Chattanooga at home. And at that point in time, Jimmy Weekly was the head coach. But only 2 starters from that Chattanooga side remain with the club.
You see that Schultz was going straight up. Laborio was not. It was always going to be a free kick. He's perhaps lucky not to get away with a card there. Schultz back up on his feet.
This segment of the match brought to you by ScanSource, accelerating growth for partners and calling Greenville home for 30 years as this ball floats inside, brought down and out of play. That'll be another corner kick. Over to that left corner flag once again for Greenville.
PNC Corners for Kids, taken by your Greenville Triumph.
And it's another PNC Corners for Kids. Handful here in this first half of Greenville. They scored on their first attempt of the first 45 minutes. Boyce will play this one up to Polak. Polak swings it in. And that one ended up being too dangerous. Schultz gets knocked over. This time by Siobhan Marsh, and he'll get a booking. 4th yellow card of the season for Marsh. The Jamaican midfielder, attacking midfielder more so.
To Chattanooga's number 11, Siobhan Marsh, in the 42nd minute.
Aviles, his hands on the ball now, distributes it to Espinoza. He'll switch it over to Kraft. We're going to get a whistle on Evan Lee.
Lee picked up his first assist of the season earlier tonight. He almost had one on the weekend against with that little flip chip to Castro.
Menza holding things up. Now Laborio. On this right-hand side, cross comes swinging in. The header comes down from Hernandez, and it's off the mark. It'll be a goal kick for Jared Mazzola. His 14th start as a pro and also this season. Talked a little bit about Mazzola with John Harkes, and I mean, first and foremost, it's so early in his pro career. Harkes mentioned that there's still so much for him to work on and improve, but he does see the game really well, and he recognizes transition opportunities very quickly. And the way I broached the topic was, I mean, yeah, he's brand new. We didn't even know if he was going to be the starter coming into the season, but the fact of the matter is he's made some big saves in a lot of these games, including in that match against Central Valley Fuego, and John Harkes said, yeah, he's kept us in several matches this season with his shot stopping.
Yeah, I asked John Harkes, what's the difference for goalkeepers between the collegiate and pro game? And he said, yeah, the decision making and just reading the game. The 2 biggest things. Mazzola's pretty good with his feet. He's had some growing pains here and there, but certainly grown into the season as we've gone on. Great shot stopper. Couldn't do anything about the goal tonight, obviously.
Has 3 clean sheets this season. In his first year starting as a pro, he came in mid-season last year as a backup to Paul Christensen. From Katona, New York. Jared Mazzola, just 24 years old. Just a year older than Liam McKinnon, who has a hat trick in this game. So when it comes to young players making an impact on this Greenville team, it's not out of the ordinary.
Support there from Fricky.
This one switched over to Hernandez. Takes over to that left channel. Guadarrama tried the cross, came off Walker.
The fourth official has indicated 2 minutes of stoppage time.
Guadarrama.
By engineer
It's that one to deflect off of Schultz, and will fall out for a corner kick. We got 2 minutes of stoppage time, brought to you by Engineered Sleep, the best handmade mattresses in town. Visit engineeredsleep.com for better sleep. Riley Kraft will trot over to the left flag and will deliver the service here to see if they can snag back a goal here before the halftime whistle. Kraft loads it in, and it's headed away.
I don't think that was quite what Devon Boyce had in mind.
Consecutive corner for Chattanooga. Now Espinoza. Service comes in and it's headed away by Leo Castro, who's been on the clearance on a couple of these corner kicks for Greenville today. Foul there. Not sure if that was Pilato or Boyce who made contact, but
Yeah, I think it was a little clumsy from Noah Pilato. Just a needless late tackle. And Greenville putting themselves under some pressure here in stoppage time.
one more set piece for the Red Wolves. A lot of conversation with our head official, Sean Tahini. Cross comes in, and then a volleyed effort will skip all the way into the hands of Mazzola. And that'll do it for the first 45. Well, 4 goals in 45 minutes, all of them coming in the first 22 minutes, though. A hat trick from Liam McKinnon is the highlight of what was a goal-frenzied first half of action here at Paladin Stadium. Just another case of USL League One midweek mayhem. With that in mind, though, it's time for the players as well as ourselves to step aside briefly for a break. When we come back, we'll have highlights from Week 14's action here for you on ESPN+. So we'll see you then on the other side. Till then, take a moment, and we'll catch up with you after.
This is no sleepy-headed, moving in reverse kind of state. We're home to barrier-breaking humans who took $7 billion and invested it in microchips, potato chips, nope, education. This investment, it builds jobs and more jobs where people create things like flying, not that. Who does all this? Forward-thinking pilgrims of change, like you. South Carolina. Now that's smart.
You know, I'm just feeling a lot of pressure. There's big shoes to fill.
It's your time now, Tommy. I know you'll keep it special like your dad did.
If we can keep this business growing, I think that's the best way to honor him.
Well, I was there for him, and I'll be there for you.
About this new location,
He would have loved it, Tommy. Let's find a way.
Whenever the Greenville Triumph score not 1, but 2 goals during any home game, fans score big with 10% off on all fresh, scratch-made food at Habitat. Just grab a table, show your game day ticket while wearing your Triumph gear. Don't forget, you can always come cheer on the team while watching the away games during our watch parties. Habitat, proud sponsor of the Greenville Triumph.
Well, we had a ton of goals in the first half of action, 4, of course, between Greenville and the Chattanooga Red Wolves. But if that was not enough goals for you, don't worry. We've got you covered. We've got a ton more goals slated up here for you, so let's dive right into it. It's time for your regularly scheduled bus stop in the last weekend highlights in USL League One. Starting in Richmond, it's game 1 of 3 in the Henny Derby between the Kickers and Forward Madison. This opportunity denied. Carlton Belmar gets the shot off, but Jake Kroll is in the way of it, keeping it at scoreless. Then later in the game, in the 78th minute, well bodied down by Christian Cheney to Nazim Bartman, and he connects with Stephen Payne of all players, the former Richmond kicker, in his first game back at City Stadium, scoring against his former team and securing 3 points for the Mingos on the road. Talk about some payback and showing up your former team, Stephen Payne. He'll be happy about that one. Meanwhile, first ever matchup between the Jacks and one Knoxville. I'm sure you're getting tired of me saying that about these Lexington games and these Knoxville games, but we're running out of those now as we're in the middle of the season. But first off, a fantastic free kick from Frank Ross in the first half. Then, in the second half, James Thomas tripped up by Miguel Ibarra inside the penalty area, a point to the spot, and Frank Ross, who hadn't scored all season, has a brace in this game, locking it up at 2-0. 4-1 Knoxville over the Jacks. Turned out to be a pretty shocking result here. Dane Kelly would get a chance late in the match to try and get one back. He only has 2 goals this season, the USL's all-time leading scorer. Hasn't been of a detriment to the Independents so far this season, but still something to think about. 2-0 in favor of Knoxville. There was another game, Northern Colorado and Tormenta, ended up getting postponed due to weather, so that takes us to the final game of the night. Jesus Partida gets denied by Mazzola in this match between the Fuego and Greenville Triumph. That opportunity, probably the best one Central Valley had the entire evening. And then in the 95th minute, as time is expiring, 3 substitutes connect. Gavilanes, Cox Ashwood, then Labovitz. Tucks it in, and the Greenville Triumph snatch 3 points across the country against Central Valley Fuego. Joy abundant for the Triumph as they secure 3 points, and some frustration on the other side of things for Central Valley Fuego. They're in last place in USL League One with 10 points coming into Week 15. Then we got some Sunday action as well. I know earlier I mentioned it's the first ever meeting for Knoxville and Charlotte, but this isn't even the first meeting at this venue for Lexington and North Carolina FC. It will be a first assist and a first goal in the season, though, for Nico Brown and Will Bainham. Such a wonderfully squared header, bottom left corner. Then feast your eyes on Olex Anderson. So good on the ball, connects with McLaughlin, and he finds Louis Perez for his 5th goal of the season. Then just 4 minutes later, Garrett McLaughlin, who just got an assist, would then get a goal for his own to make it 2-1 in favor of North Carolina FC at home, feeling very good about themselves. But then Tate Robertson happened. What a fantastic strike. That would level the game at 2 apiece. Both teams would share a point. And because Charlotte ended up losing on the road, North Carolina FC, despite not winning, would end up getting to retain their top spot in the standings.
Are you ready? Ready for more of the game you love? Ready for more players and more teams? Ready for more stadiums, for more fans in more cities? This is a different league. The USL Super League. Built for the future of women's soccer. Bridging the journey from youth to pro, connected to the global game, and bringing it all closer to home. Are you ready?
goals. But let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
Taxes man, left foot, and it's a first-time shot, and a goal! Luis Fernando! It's turned over. Babu Karchai to put it away! Phoenix Rising will take all 3 points,
3-1 Rising. Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know,
As we welcome you back to more halftime content here on ESPN Plus, of course, the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and it's 9 representatives from USL League One, 2 of them coming from the Chattanooga Red Wolves and Nico Cardona and Ricardo Jerez. And of course, we've talked about it, Jimmy Weekly stepping in as the interim head coach, announced just yesterday, a little over 24 hours between game time and that announcement dropping on social media. And then Tate Robertson with Player of the Week, which segues perfect into our Team of the Week. Only one player from these two sides being featured in Tyler Polak, but a couple of former Red Wolves in Rafa Menzigan and Timmy Mel making an appearance. Why don't we take a peek at the scoreboard across USL League One? Of course, got to see the highlights from all these games over the weekend, and then we've got the match that's taking place right now between Union Omaha and One Knoxville. Once this game's concluded and you're interested in this game, I recommend catching the tail end of that affair. If this game has been an indicator of how crazy this Wednesday is going to be, surely there will be some madness in that one. And then, of course, coming up for the rest of the week, including tomorrow, Madison play Lexington, and then a good slate of matchups on the Saturday weekend. 4 different games to choose from, so pick your poison. Of course, Chattanooga fans will be tuned into the Jacks, but if you're Greenville, you have the weekend off. You get to enjoy things. Ross, do you have any of these matches in particular that suits your fancy?
Well, I'll be bringing you Richmond to One Knox, but that should be a fun one. And they got the Fire and Ice Derby, late Saturday night for those of you who like to stay up on the East Coast. That should be a fun one too. Fuego playing a little better. Hailstorm obviously continuing that hot finish they got off to last year.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 sides, or 2 games that you could catch both of them, the 7 o'clock and the 9 o'clock kickoff. And with that in mind, we'll step aside briefly. When we come back, we've got highlights and stats for you here on ESPN Plus prior to the second half kickoff.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? What's your name, sir? Where you are right now?
It's not about building a home in just 30 hours for a deserving family with Habitat for Humanity, or about building homes for a national television competition. It's about building memorable experiences with our community, team members, and trade partners that will last for a lifetime. Hunter Quinn Homes, building the difference.
This is no sleepy-headed, moving in reverse kind of state. We're home to barrier-breaking humans who took $7 billion and invested it in microchips, potato chips, nope, education. This investment, it builds jobs and more jobs where people create things like flying, not that. Who does all this? Forward-thinking pilgrims of change, like you. South Carolina. Now that's smart.
Fifth Third Bank. Yeah, it's a quirky name. But here's the thing. 5/3 equals 166.7%. So we put 166.7% into everything we do. Like automatically getting you your paycheck up to 2 days early. Giving you well-deserved extra time to avoid overdraft fees. And helping you borrow from your future self. This is banking a they're better.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to head out, okay? Tell me your name, sir. You are right now?
Tonight's USL League One broadcast is presented by Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System, proud sponsor of the Greenville Triumph. Welcome back to Greenville, South Carolina. Overcast, rainy day across Paladin Stadium. It's been raining goals in 45 minutes, though, between the Triumph and the Chattanooga Red Wolves. Let's take a look at the highlights and those first eventful 22 minutes of action between these two sides. Starting off in the 9th minute, it's number 9, Liam McKinnon, with a superb finish here.
Yeah, Tyler Polak just teed it up for him, and you won't see any purer strikes than that.
Then in the 11th minute, it'd be number 11, Devin Boyce, tracking back. And then Chattanooga with the cross. Espinoza deflects it off of Nate Schultz, making it 1 apiece. Then just 3 minutes later, though, Greenville will once again reclaim the advantage. Devin Boyce taking his way down to the 18. Drags it over to McKinnon. He makes it 2. Well done there from the young striker to sit back. And it wouldn't take much longer for him to get his 3rd fastest hat trick, in League One history. Evan Lee would take on the role of assister there, popping it up. And Liam McKinnon is feeling it in the first 45 minutes. Fantastic showcase for him, and a fantastic showcase from the Greenville Triumph as we look at the halftime stats brought to you by Warehouse Services Incorporated. Worth noting, Ross, we were looking at it during halftime. Greenville with just a .73 expected goals, but Liam McKinnon doesn't seem to be bothered by that number.
Now, 3 shots on target, and all 3 of them have gone, and you get that 3-1 lead coming off that short week. Greenville perhaps just pacing themselves a little bit. They'd obviously love that 4th goal. We'll see if they manage to get it here in the second half.
6 shots apiece between these two sides as we see Jimmy Weekly once again. His side with some work to do in the second 45 minutes of action. I asked Sean McDaniel about choosing Jimmy Weekly to be the successor. I asked him, it wasn't a no-brainer. Was there anybody else in mind? And he said, well, he's the first assistant, so it's natural for him to be the guy to step in. And yeah, you're confident in him. I don't see why they wouldn't be confident in him given his track record with the side. And then he did clarify it'll be an interim title for the foreseeable future. They need him to right the ship, and they're confident that he could do that. We see Alan Gavilanes readying himself to get into this game.
I assume perhaps replacing Devin Boyce. I don't see him yet with the yellow card.
And that will be the case. You suggested this switch in the first half, Ross, and it appears to be an agreeable decision for John Harkes' side.
And Boyce, once you get to 8 yellows, you get suspended. Obviously, he had the red as well, so the one game coming up in the next few weeks, you'd rather have him available for that instead of potentially missing out. Otherwise, he wouldn't play for a month. So, yeah, smart decision there by John Harkes, bringing on Gavilanes, who had the assist on the game winner Saturday night against Fuego. Certainly a very capable replacement on either wing.
So here we go, 45 more minutes of midweek mayhem here on ESPN+. Mo Espinoza. We'll see what adjustments these two sides make. Of course, the personnel change for Greenville. Alan Gavilanes in for Devin Boyce. Substitution brought to you by Spinks.
Yep, straight like-for-like swap on the left wing.
Kraft trying to bring it forward, but Gavilanes is there to disarm him. And now Castro on that left-hand side. Taps it to Gavilanes. He sends in the cross. Comes down. Chance for a shot from Walker, and he doesn't connect with that one just right.
Good work by Pilato to get the transition going the other way. Castro, not the quickest player in the world, but so smart. Found Gavilanes out on the wing there, and it was a decent enough cross. Walker just blasted over in the end.
Hernandez with the touch. Brings it to Kraft. Kraft with the swing inside and the header coming down for Mensah, but tough angle for him to flick that one on target. So it will be a goal kick. Papa Mensah, 3 goals this season, which is tied for the lead for Chattanooga. Actually, I think he has sole lead over that.
Teasing ball from Kraft. Good work in the end by Schultz. Just to put the Rebels player off. I think Kraft's a dangerous player when he gets that ball. Loves to charge forward. Former Richmond kicker. Mentioned Papa Mensah, 100+ USL Championship appearances. Always something worth having on your squad in League One.
More and more teams have that in their roster somewhere. A player with that wealthy experience. As a matter of fact, I think Greenville is one of the few teams that probably has the least amount of it, but they have a wealth of players who have a ton of USL League One experience at this point in time. Brandon Fricky, Evan Lee, Aaron Walker, Noah Pilato. These are all guys, Tyler Polak, who very much help establish a foundation for this Greenville team. Cale Williams gives it to Kraft. Apt touch there from Leo Castro. Polak trying to send his man running, but well done from Johnny Guadarrama to make sure that it wouldn't fall into the laps of a striker. Avalanez gets that one out. It's Labovitz, one-on-one with the keeper, but the offside flag will go up.
It was a tight one. Labovitz says no way. Didn't look offside initially when the ball was played. I don't always have the best angle though. Avalanez almost got caught in no man's land. He came out for it and then appeared to slow down. Got away with it.
Give him the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he saw the flag go up, but you never know for certain.
Yeah, Labovitz loves to hang on the far shoulders of defenders. Anticipate those balls coming over the top. John Harkes has been employing his team to get the ball over the top a little bit more. Get behind the back.
They have another chance to push forward here. Noah Pilato from out wide. And he does not connect with that ball. At least not properly. And you see him shaking his head. Once again, you see there, fastest hat trick in League One history, Liam McKinnon. And then, of course, the Nate Schultz own goal, courtesy of a shot from Mo Espinoza, a shot that looked to be going on target, so Schultz and Mazzola had to do something about it. Now, ultimately ended up not being the course of action they would have liked. Evan Lee shrugging off Mensah. That's a great ball forward. McKinnon to Labovitz. Now Castro. And it deflects off of Cale Williams. Out for a corner kick. I mean, every time they're breaking down the pitch, they look prone to wreak some havoc.
McKinnon looking to get on the assist score sheet. That one, I think, almost went through the leg of Labovitz. Good last-minute defending there by Williams to get over and take that off the toe of Castro.
So Noah Pilato on this PNC Corners for Kids, and he plays it short. Gavilanez trying to work around Hernandez. Back to Pilato. Schultz. Up for Gavilanez, heads it back for Polak. There's two players there, though. It's Pilato who ends up getting the touch on the ball. And now, here's where Chattanooga could be dangerous on the breakaway. Marsh, with his pace, steps inside. Marsh takes a shot, and it deflects, and Mazzola will collect it. Mensah very much offside there, so couldn't interact with that ball whatsoever.
It was the first time tonight we've really been concerned about Greenville getting caught on the transition. Good work in the end by Nate Schultz helping back. A poor kick from Mazzola.
Kraft. Service is not up to the standard he was looking for. Kraft. Good sliding challenge from Pilato. And then he takes the extra effort to make sure it's a throw-in and not a corner. Substitution in the works for Chattanooga. And it appears that they may go ahead and go through with it. Christian Enriquez. The man they're looking to be that number 10 this year for Chattanooga. Started the season and then suffered a knock, and this will just be his 5th appearance of the year. Former Madison man.
Number 11, Siobhan Marsh.
So Siobhan Marsh, after that breakaway chance, that'll be the last bit of football he'll play this evening.
Yeah, Enriquez had some moments with Madison. Certainly capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. Didn't do it a ton of times for Madison, but very creative as well. See if he can make a difference in this one and get his team back in this game. One goal would do it. Approaching halftime in Omaha, no goals between Union Omaha and One Knoxville. Just one shot on target between the two teams, that one from Omaha. Courtesy of Joe Burrito early on. Hasn't been a ton of goal-mouth action in that one. Omaha do have 6 total shots. Flip over to that, as Mark said, after this one's finished.
Fricky able to get there before Mensah. He'll provide the clearance. There's an expectation to be in the playoffs. I talked a little bit about it in the first half for Chattanooga. Sean McDaniel, the GM, he said we want to be in the playoffs year by year. We want to be competing in the playoffs year by year. He mentioned that it's a team effort, working towards that, from the players to the front office to the coaching staff to the sales team. Everyone on board is all hands on deck. So one singular change in the staff, of course, a pretty significant change in Ziggy Kortowski, the head coach. There's still a lot of good pieces across Chattanooga that Sean McDaniel expressed his wholehearted faith in.
You just have to wonder if it was a bit of a desperation move. They're only 12 games in, Mark. I know he, with the team that he inherited, obviously brought in a lot of players as well. It's just a difficult one. As time will tell whether it was the right decision or
exactly.
not.
Well, I mean, it does. I mean, it is. Went and looked. It's the shortest term for a official head coach in League One history. Of course, there have been interim coaches who have stepped in at times, but just 12 games for Ziggy Kortowski, and I guess that is a question that was worth asking, which is that enough time to establish a culture? But on the flip side, if you have lost the confidence in the person, then, I mean, dawdling around and wait for what is appropriate also doesn't make much sense either.
For sure, but there's also not a ton of available coaches out there at the moment. It'll be interesting to see where Chattanooga looks. Obviously, there are college coaches not in season at the moment, if you look to go that direction.
Can't watch the match? Turn on SiriusXM FC 157, North America's only 24/7 source for engaging soccer talk, including the return of USL All Access Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern starting June 13th. Plus, hear live matches from the USL, MLS, English Premier League, and more, all on SiriusXM FC 157 and the SXM app. Well, if you like some of the conversations that Ross and I posit sometimes on these broadcasts, USL All Access is chock full of those across the USL Championship. And offside there.
Introducing the Triumph Car Collection. Since its launch in 2019, the club's custom wrap.
We'll get another peek at this one.
Good half yard behind the Greenville back line.
Pollock stepping up there and making sure he's not behind the rest of his unit.
It'll be interesting to see when John Harkes does go to the substitute bench with some potentially tired legs out there. All these guys, except for Labovitz, started on the weekend. You don't want to leave it too long. Perhaps in the midfielders, they've done a ton of running tonight because that next goal is going to be crucial, Mark, if there is a next goal.
Hernandez on that right corner will play it back to Kraft. And his cross, too much air underneath it. Out for a goal kick. I had a chat with John Harkes a little bit about the mental fortitude and strength it takes to play this game. I mean, surely we've had a lot of goals in this one, but sometimes the match is decided by just one singular goal, one singular moment, like that Central Valley Fuego game. I talked to him, since he has the perspective of being a former player. You know, what does it take for a player, as we get a yellow card here for Nate Schultz? Just his second yellow of the season.
Yeah, one thing Greenville's got to be careful of is not sitting back too much and soaking up the pressure with those tired legs. I don't think John Harkes will wait too much more than 5 or 10 minutes longer to make some substitutions. Perhaps we'll see Coutinho, depending how he's feeling. Fenton Evans, Alex Cox-Ash would love to get some fresh legs on there. Perhaps they go more for at the back. We'll see. Evan Lee's been effective, though. I got the assist tonight.
I mean, he has that propensity to move forward, even from the center back spot. We're going to get a whistle here.
Decision. I think Chattanooga are going to say that's in the box. The assistant referee was in a good spot.
Sean Tahini saying it's right outside the 18, and Mikhail Williams.
Well, the replay will tell us. And here we'll get a look here. Oh, it's not even a question. Wow. Not going to say anything about that, Mark.
I think you've already gone and said it, but yeah, that is an unfortunate break against Chattanooga.
I'm just surprised she didn't go to her assistant referee and at least ask for help. Surely had to be in the vicinity because of where the ball was at the time. It's a little confounding.
Well, needless to say, it's a set piece for the Red Wolves. Perhaps they could take advantage of this opportunity either way. It's Espinoza and Riley Kraft, dotting the two largest numbers you can in professional soccer. Espinoza curls it, and it's punched away by Mazzola, and he thuds into his post there. How about that effort? An acrobatic half volley. Saved by Mazzola once again. And he waves to the ref saying, hey, look, that post is no longer lined up on the goal line on either side.
They stopped the game in hockey to replace the goal.
Look at that thud. It's entirely cattywampus.
I don't know what that word means, Mark, but I'll take your word for it.
Surely it's been fixed at this point in time, and now Chattanooga will look to find a strike on a properly oriented goal.
It would have been an interesting one if we'd have had a shot that hit a post that was out of play. It would have been interesting.
It would have been a Wednesday League One thing to happen.
Yes.
Kraft can't catch up to that one. It still hasn't been fixed. Mazzola still waving for assistance over there. I think Mazzola just went and took matters into his own hands from what I'm being told, and yeah, that looks about right. Of course, in the corner of the screen.
He's not happy with it. He's going to go fix it himself.
I mean, that should have happened last dead ball. Yeah, that's still very much wrong.
We're going to check if it's centered now. That's the other thing.
Have you ever seen this happen before in a soccer game, Ross?
No, they got the weights on there. You thought that would have been enough to keep it in one place. We'll have to maybe add some extra weight there for the next home game.
All 6 foot of Jared Mazzola. Knocking that goal out of place. That wasn't the most comfortable fall from Polak. But he's up in Sprite. Kraft offside there. Front row seat from the assistant.
Remember Greenville having a debatable penalty decision go against them earlier this season when it was debatable it was in the box or not, Mike? I can't remember.
I mean, they've had a couple of penalty calls that have been on the fence this year. I'm trying to recall which one you're talking about in particular. I mean, as the saying always goes, when you have bad calls, you just hope that at the end of the year it's 50-50.
They do normally end up evening themselves out.
Mensah. Bring it forward, and I want to roll out off the foot of Enriquez.
At this time, we would like to announce tonight's Blood Zero State Driver of the Match. Tonight's winner is Maureen Watson. Congratulations, Maureen.
Well,
Thank you for taking the Blood Zero State Driver pledge.
Lined up to throw this one in.
Take the pledge and get your name entered to be the next Blood Zero State Driver of the Match. As a reminder,
And I want to roll out for another Greenville throw. USL on ESPN continues as the summer heats up. Memphis 901 FC and Aaron Malloy head to the Valley of the Sun to face Manuel Arteaga and Phoenix Rising FC. It's Phoenix Rising FC and Memphis 901 FC Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
Yeah, things don't get any easier coming up for Chattanooga. Not that there's any easy games in League One anymore, Mark, but home against Charlotte, at Richmond, home against Northern Colorado, and then at Tormenta, and at Knoxville. It almost seems like that might be the top 5 teams in the league, other than NCFC, it seems like there.
I mean, you've
Tormenta
got
not quite in there at the moment, but we obviously know what they're capable of.
I'd say you've got all teams above the playoff line and then the reigning champions. So on the road in Statesboro.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch. I think the key is going to have to be getting a coach in there quickly, Mark. Hopefully they've been working on it already. We saw my AFC Bournemouth hire and fire a coach within the space of 3 hours on Saturday. Obviously been something they've been working on behind the scenes, but you hope when you make a decision like that with a week between games that you have figured out perhaps somebody to come in and replace Ziggy. Sean McDaniel, you asked him if he had anybody, perhaps anybody in mind, and he obviously wasn't going to spill the beans.
Well, surely, yeah.
Jay Mims is available.
Alan Gavilanes plays it across the center, and it's not quite in. Castro on his back tried to get the finish.
Couldn't tell from the angle where that one had gone.
Maybe a yellow card from Alan Gavilanes. It's his first booking of the season.
Not normally somebody to lose his cool.
Here's a look at that sequence again.
The overlapping run. Gavilanes had all the time in the world. He perhaps could have had a crack on goal. Castro almost poked it in. He got the yellow for kicking it away. I don't think the initial challenge was worthy of a yellow.
substitution for Chattanooga, as you can see there on the screen. Mael Malongo is in, and Jacob Lavovitz is nearly past Aviles.
Great save by Aviles. I say saving a goal. He came out, had to make a decision in a split second. He made the right one to deny Lavovitz.
So Papa Mensa is out of the game for Mael Malongo.
Oops. Pollack's had a couple of clumsy moments here lately.
Hernandez practically sitting on the ball there. Now Kraft with the swinging. Ball is not going to connect with Malongo. Punched away by Mazzola.
Yeah, another good split-second goalkeeping decision. Always safe to punch it away, as long as you can make good contact with it. Some goalkeepers prefer to do that. So if you go to try catch that and drop it, could be a nightmare.
Better safe than sorry.
Chattanooga have been knocking it about nicely at times, just missing that final ball mark. Really haven't forced Jared Mazzola into doing a whole lot tonight. 4 shots on target. Most of them of the simple variety for the Greenville goalkeeper.
Williams, once again getting chased by Lavovitz. He's been enthusiastic in his pressing today. Sure, when you're playing at about 25 degrees cooler than usual, you feel a little bit more energy in you. Lavovitz, that's a wonderful ball inside. McKinnon gets it by the keeper, and Liam McKinnon etches his name into the history books. The first League One player to log 4 finishes in one singular match. Soaring higher than the peaks of the Alps, it's Liam McKinnon.
Congratulations, young man, well done. Turnover. Created by himself in the center circle. Gavalanis with a lovely first time pass. That's a delightful ball by Lavovitz. Beautiful weight, beautiful first touch by McKinnon. A classy finish over Aviles for number 4.
It's his 5th goal of the season, brought to you by YMCA Greenville and the Reedy River Riot, with a reason to celebrate.
The team is running riot over this Chattanooga squad.
Liam McKinnon. What a night for him. 3-time All Big East player. And he has now put his name into League One lore. Was drafted in the 3rd round of the MLS Super Draft by Nashville. Ends up coming to Greenville instead, and I mean, on a night like this, where else would you rather be? 20 minutes to go in this one. Liam McKinnon. The Swiss man. Just been, I mean, what words do you want to use to describe it, Ross? I mean, it's a wondrous night.
Yeah, he's done everything right. I mentioned he had that big game a few weeks ago. Kind of had a few quiet ones. Certainly made the noise tonight. He had that goal and the assist versus Charlotte, had the goal against Omaha, but this is taking it to another level, putting the league on notice. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with the rest of the season.
Yeah, think about this. Coming into today, just had 1 goal in his career, 1 goal in league play this year. Now he has 5, which has, of course, absolutely launched him up the leaderboard in the Golden Boot race. Just 3 behind Trevor Ahmed now. Service from Gavilanez. Headed down. Labovitz pokes it by the keeper. I think they're going to wave it off, though. Labovitz with a bit of a come on moment. It'll stay at 4-1. Mind you, Ross, last time these two teams met, Chattanooga won 5-1. Hernandez slips by Polak. Hernandez shoots, and it's off of the back of Evan Lee, off the crossbar of the uprights. Couple of vicious ricochets there, and it'll be a corner kick for the Red Wolves.
Corner for Chattanooga.
Espinoza provides the service. And it up and away. Pilato plays it forward. Mikhail Williams. Oh, that's precarious, but Aviles has shown his composure in some tricky situations today. I mean, ultimately, it's been a rough night for him, but not really through any of his fault. Castro. Jostle for the ball between Guadarrama and Fricke. It'll be a Red Wolves throw. We're going to get a substitution for the Red Wolves. Longtime Chattanooga man Walefi is out, and Andrew Paoli will come in his stead.
Leading the match, number 8, Walefi Dos Reis. The 74th minute.
Short turnaround for Chattanooga here, just looking to get through this game without losing anybody to injury.
Adjust your expectations on Ryan McKinnon.
Yeah, there you go.
Corner for Chattanooga.
Kraft from the corner, sends it in, and they're gonna get another take at it. Another service comes in, headed away by Lee. Espinoza with a good touch. And then that one will go off of McKinnon and out for another corner kick.
Corner for Chattanooga.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Mo Espinoza with another opportunity, this time from the right flag. 15 minutes to go. That one. Not the cleanest of punches from Mazzola, but he got the job done through a couple of bodies.
It's clearly something he likes to do. It's been effective tonight.
Labovitz sends McKinnon running. McKinnon to Gavilanez, but Aviles was just a bit quicker. Oh, that's careless. Pilato to Castro. Plays it forward. Pilato. And we're going to get a corner kick for the Greenville Triumph. Ruthless from the Triumph here this evening. McKinnon trying to get on the assist category. This PNC corners for kids will not be taken by Alan Gavilanez, or at least the odds have severed in that regard. Pilato looking to be the one to take it, barring some trickery.
Yeah, I wonder at what point John Harkes has to think about getting Liam McKinnon and some of his other guys out of this game.
Pilato. It's headed down and into the back of the net. It's Leo Castro this time around. Get me in on the goal-scoring fun 5-1 Greenville triumph. The veteran Leo Castro nodding that one in. And it's a party for the Reedy River Riot.
Big reward for those Riot fans who showed up in these conditions tonight. Lovely delivery here. Players were almost lining up at the back post there. Castro, Chattanooga, not the tallest team in the world. Castro not really challenged there. In any real form or shape. 5 yards out. He's going to score those 9 out of 10 times. Trying to keep up with Liam McKinnon in the Golden Boot race.
Yeah, that's his 5th goal of the season, brought to you by YMCA Greenville, and now we will get a trio of substitutions here. Daniel Wu, Noah Frankie, and Lucas Coutinho all looking to make their entrance. And there is the exit of Liam McKinnon, a historic night for the Swiss man. All these substitutions brought to you by Spinks. Asking you shall receive, Ross Davenport. 3 substitutions for the Greenville triumph.
Yes, I think especially in these conditions, that was the smart move. During those subs, Union Omaha taking a 1-0 lead.
Spink substitution for Greenville. Entering the match, number 10.
In the second half there.
Leaving the match, number 25, Leo Castro.
So the goal scorers, Leo Castro and Liam McKinnon, come out, along with Nate Schultz for Lucas Coutinho, Noah Frankie, and Daniel Wu. Frankie just making his 3rd appearance of the season. Once again, he's been working back from injury.
Yeah, great to see Noah Frankie back. Obviously had an injury, early injury last season. It basically meant he lost his starting spot to Nate Schultz, who stepped up in a big way. Now, John Hawks will get to rotate those two perhaps a little bit. Obviously, not a whole ton of game action coming up for Greenville. No need to rotate too much coming up.
Well, Ross, I mentioned it just a couple of minutes earlier. 5-1 was the scoreline in the reverse between these two teams back in August. Only 2 starters from that Chattanooga team are still with the Red Wolves, and that's Aaron Lombardi and Carlos Aviles. And then on the Greenville side, 7 starters in that Greenville game are back with the team this year. Actually, it's 8 if you count Jamie Smith, who hasn't made an appearance yet this season, but is on the mend, looking to make his debut for the 2023 season some point in the future.
Noe Meza with his 7th goal of the season. He takes 2nd place in the Golden Boot race with that free kick in the 47th minute against 1 Knoxville.
Caught wind of a rising threat from Greenville, South Carolina.
Omaha's first win in quite a while. This victory came back in late April. 4 draws and 2 losses since then. So much needed 3 points for the 2021 champions if they can hold on there. Still a long way to go though at Werner Park. So Trevor Ammon in the lead with 8, Noe Meza with 7. Liam McKinnon now with 6.
I believe it's 5. He only had him as 1 goal coming into this game, and then with the 4 he's tacked on today. Oh, I guess he had 2 coming into this game. I had not updated my stats. Ross just pointing sheepishly to his monitor there. 6 goals this season for Liam McKinnon, which means he still holds the lead for Greenville's side of things, despite the goal from Leo Castro.
We asked John Harks a little bit about why his team is scoring so much this season. A little bit about tactics and obviously sharing the goals.
You mentioned creativity and putting players in good spots. And he mentioned he doesn't want to rely on just 1 or 2 players for all the goals because, you know, what happens if they aren't available?
So he still wants more shots outside the box, which hasn't happened tonight. Yeah, creativity. Still working on conceding. Obviously tonight was a bit of a fluke goal for Chattanooga. Greenville have shut up shop since then. Mazzola's had called into action a couple of times with the punches. This win would move Greenville into a four-way tie on 19 points if that one Knoxville game holds. We'll get to that in a second.
Coutinho dispossessed and it's cleared away. Daniel Wu finds Polak.
4 teams on 19 points and all 4 teams with 5 wins.
Goes to goal differential after that now.
It does. NOCO have the advantage in that department.
They also have the games in hand, if I recall.
Yeah, a couple at the moment playing very well.
Good connection inside, and it bounces off of Aviles. He couldn't handle that ball from the shot from Aaron Walker.
Nice little combo here between Coutinho and Frankie. Walker there. Aviles should perhaps have done a little better.
Another PNC corners for kids here. Polak. Sends the service in, it's headed away. Pilato plays it back for Wu. There's Frankie. Trying to thread that one through, but it pings out fortuitously, connects with Labovitz. Somehow it doesn't go in.
Labovitz with the clearance.
And we're going to get a substitution here, a goalie substitution for the Greenville Triumph. Say hello to Gunther Rankenberg. Be making his debut, and he gets a big high five, double high five at that, and a hug from Jared Mazzola. Rankenberg from Marietta, Georgia, making his entrance, and the substitution brought to you by Spinks. When we were talking about Mazzola, Parks made a point to say that Rankenberg is someone we're more than confident throwing into a game if need be. And talk about a good time to just get him some minutes here.
No, nice gesture from John Harms. Ben Hale started the season as the backup and then retired. That resulted in Rankenberg being brought in, getting his debut. Great to see. Unfortunately, we mentioned for Chattanooga the quick turnaround. I'm sure they'd love to have the schedule that Greenville has right now and be able to have some time to perhaps find a coach. But it's going to be another quick turnaround Saturday, and then no breaks really after that. Every game on a Saturday coming up for Chattanooga. Hopefully they can get that situation sorted out. As well as Jimmy Weekly did last season. Not sure if that's the job he wants. Maybe he does. Perhaps I didn't get a chance to talk to him this week.
Kraft's ball will deflect off of Gavilanes. Out for a corner kick.
I certainly think they'll at least take a look and see who's available out there and potentially interested in coming into it. What is an awkward situation. Almost the midway point of a season with a team that you had no decision in building. Not the easiest. As you mentioned earlier, though, McDaniel said these players are true professionals. Do what it takes.
Espinoza with the corner, and it's headed out. And bounce for another corner kick. We had quite a few corner kicks today for both teams. Headed away, but not quite out of the fray yet. Espinoza, once again, swings it in. And that one falls to Kraft, and then that'll be bodied away for Chattanooga to recover at midfield. This segment of the match is brought to you by ScanSource, accelerating growth for partners and calling Greenville home for 30 years. Gavilanes threads it forward for Labovitz, but the offside flag will cancel that opportunity. All of these offensive players for Greenville have the creativity and the skill set to make goals happen. Part of the reason why they've been able to spread that wealth around.
Listen, some people were a little worried about Greenville to start the season, but those that have watched them play knew the injury situation, knew that it was going to resolve itself at some point. And obviously, perhaps taking advantage of a bit of a knockdown opponent here in Chattanooga with their off-the-field situation. But yeah, certainly 2 wins in a row now, 6 points. That'll vault you up the table quickly, as we know in League One. Now time to get even more healthy. Just missing those 3 players we mentioned, Shaw, Gabo, and Smith. Even more depth, especially at the back.
It'll be a week and a half before Greenville have their next match, a home fixture against Forward Madison. And Matt Glazer and company will be coming off of a midweek game, a Wednesday fixture, so there'll be a significant difference in time played between matches for those two sides. Coutinho and Labovitz. Actually, that wasn't Labovitz over there. That was,
I think it was Frankie.
Frankie who was offside.
Fullback loves to get forward. You should see him do it for FC2 side. Maybe used to give Greenville fits. Pushing up from his fullback position. Great to see getting him healthy and in the mix with Schultz. Also play both fullback spots. Maybe Polak can certainly do with the rest himself.
To be fair to Greenville, he gave a lot of teams fits when he was playing for Tucson. Espinoza with another service in. Headed up and away by Lee, and we've got another corner kick coming.
And one thing with this Red Wolves team, we don't have the leader off the field at the moment, a permanent one. He's going to be coming down to the leaders on the field for this team. The likes of Espinoza, even though Tahara is injured, he's certainly one of them as well. I mentioned missing guys in the Gold Cup. They'll be back soon. Might be a case of coming together and staying strong during this difficult time for the defending runners-up.
Corner for the Red Wolves.
Well, of course, whenever you have a quick turnaround, you don't like to have a result like this on the front end of it, but it also makes for quick to forget it because you have to.
The fourth official has indicated 3 minutes of stoppage time presented by
Just
Engineered Sleep for the second half.
3 more to go in this matchup. Stoppage time brought to you by Engineered Sleep, the best handmade mattresses in town. Visit engineeredsleep.com for better sleep. Coutinho getting tangled up there. Well, coming into the game tonight, it was a tie between Greenville Triumph and North Carolina FC for most goals scored this season. The ball's in the court of North Carolina now. 5 goals from the Greenville Triumph.
One good news for Chattanooga is they've had a pretty good record against Charlotte, who they've taken on Saturday. They had that big 7-1 win in their first meeting last season. Also beat them 3-1 last year as well. Lost the matchup earlier this season 3-0 though. That was at Charlotte.
Chattanooga has fared much better at home this season than on the road. Currently have not claimed a single point on the road this season. 0-5. and staring at 0-6 as this game is winding down to a close. Espinoza. Borio gives it back to Espinoza, and he'll knock it out wide to Kraft. Kraft's cross dips in, and not enough dip on it, though, for it to stay in bounds. We've seen some crosses like that dip down and turn into something really dangerous sometimes, Ross.
We have. Yeah, Gunther Retterberg, watch that one go over his head. Thankful to see it go over the net. Yeah, for Greenville now, certainly get perhaps a few days off. Time in the mid-season to perhaps go and visit some family, reset the batteries a little bit. Obviously, coming off this, you want to get back playing again, right, as soon as you can.
Surely. It'll be the second time this season that Greenville have back-to-back wins. And back-to-back wins is what they have just done. An impressive showcase from the Greenville Triumph at home. A 5-1 thumping of the Chattanooga Red Wolves, courtesy of one Liam McKinnon with a history-setting 4 goals from the youngster. It'll be a night to remember for him, for the Triumph, for the Reedy River Riot, for anybody partial to the Greenville Triumph watching from home.
What are you supposed to do when you wear number 9, Mark? Score goals. Certainly not a true number 9, but floating in nicely from that right wing tonight, doing some serious damage.
With that in mind, let's go to our adjustment of the match, brought to you by Upstate Spine and Sport. And we're going to look at the 4 goals from Liam McKinnon. I mean, Ross, we talk about the different players all scoring for Greenville and how it's never just been a one-man show, and then we turn around and suddenly we get the Liam McKinnon show here tonight.
Quality finishes, all of them. Beautiful first touch on that last goal, right into his stride. A night to remember for that young man.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the 4 goals, 3 quality finishes, and then that second goal where he sees the 2 runs being made by Leo Castro, and he decides to hold his run, sit back, both defenders fly forward. He gets the tidy, easy finish from the pass from Devin Boyce. And he has just been superb for 90, or not 90 minutes, but for the stretch of time that he played. We'll step aside for a brief break. We'll get a look at the highlights and the full-time stats along with our closing thoughts on the other end here on ESPN+.
I need to try it first.
You know, I'm just feeling a lot of pressure. There's big shoes to fill.
It's your time now, Tommy. I know you'll keep it special like your dad did.
If we can keep this business growing, I think that's the best way to honor him.
Well, I was there for him, and I'll be there for you.
About this new location?
He would have loved it, Tommy. Let's find a way.
Whenever the Greenville Triumph score not 1, but 2 goals during any home game, fans score big with 10% off on all fresh, scratch-made food at Habitat. Just grab a table, show your game day ticket while wearing your Triumph gear. Don't forget, you can always come cheer on the team while watching the away games during our watch parties. Habitat, proud sponsor of the Greenville Triumph.
I need to try it first.
The high-flying Greenville Triumph bagged 5 goals against the Chattanooga Red Wolves in 90 minutes. from Paladin Stadium in this midweek fixture. Mark Schoenster alongside me, Ross Davenport, here to wrap things up for you here on ESPN Plus as we take a peek at the GSP Airport high-flying plays of the match. Starting in the 9th minute, we should have known that it was going to be a special night after this special hit from Liam McKinnon.
Yeah, perfect technique. That one will be up for goal of the week, no doubt.
Then on the other side, the Red Wolves just moments later would find a response, ask a question about this game, Espinosa, but Greenville would quickly grab the reins and then wouldn't let go from here on out.
Yeah, just finding tons of space in this Chattanooga defense, just how we thought it might happen, and McKinnon taking full advantage with his second goal. And he would make it the quickest hat-trick in League One history just minutes later.
Evan Lee, with his first assist of the season, would float it up. McKinnon, just another fantastic volley there. Then we dip into the second half, and the moment of magic, of history right here. McKinnon just squeezes that one by Aviles. Just a fantastic moment in general. But Greenville weren't done just yet. One more. This time it would be Leo Castro getting in on the scoring. 5 goals on the season for him. That's one behind the now leading Liam McKinnon with 6 goals on the Greenville Triumph. As we peek at the Coca-Cola full-time stats, well, if you got 6 shots on target and 5 of them go in, Ross, I think you're having a pretty good night.
It's all about being clinical when you get those chances in the box. That's what Greenville did tonight. Took advantage of things, and big win back-to-back for them now with 10 days off.
As Ross said, 10 days off for the Triumph. They'll host Madison next time they play. Meanwhile, the Red Wolves have to quickly turn around and go home and play the Charlotte Independents. But for tonight's broadcast, our entire broadcasting crew, Mark Schoenster and Ross Davenport here with you. We thank you for tuning in. We hope you have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next time on USL League One. But be sure to tune into the end of that Knoxville-Omaha game. Could still be in for some midweek mayhem over there.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League League One cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League League One.